The Lords of the Sith embody the very idea of fear. They may wield the dark side of the Force, and they may construct titanic weapons of war, but their primary offense is the terror that they inspire, not just in their enemies, but their underlings as well. Yet while they claim to be above the Jedi, they themselves were not immune to the fear of them. In darkness, the Sith terrorized like demons of the night, but there existed angelic lights that cascaded down, causing them to scatter like roaches. Greetings, lore junkies, and welcome to the archives. In today's holocron, we are going to cover the 5 Jedi most feared by the Lords of the Sith. We're turning the table on the Lords of Fear themselves. So, let's begin. Number 5, Venzalo. Little is actually known about the life of Venzalo prior to the sacking of Coruscant, but his reputation precedes him. He was the kill which further launched the fame of Darth Malgus, and he was one of very few Jedi that Malgus deeply respected as a warrior. Venzalo first crossed the notice of Malgus when he was in charge of holding down Sereno in the Great Galactic War. Malgus had sent in a team of Sith assassins to lower Sereno's defenses, and to assassinate Zalo. The infiltration was only partially successful, however. They managed to take down Sereno's defense grid, but Venzalo executed all of the assassins sent after him, and managed to escape. From that moment forward, Malgus became eager to challenge this Jedi himself. When the sacking of Coruscant occurred, the Jedi Master was the one to meet Malgus when he strode into the front door of the Jedi Temple. When the landing shuttle crashed in, Zalo was the only one that didn't even flinch. This earned him a nod of respect from the Sith Lord, before they eventually engaged in their duel. The landing party consisted almost exclusively of Sith Lords, yet none of them could overcome the Jedi, not even Adras, Malgus' longtime rival. The Jedi Master almost negligently took down several Sith in his way without breaking pace before Malgus initiated the duel. This was the fight that he had been looking forward to. Venzalo and Malgus faced off in a one-on-one duel, and they seemed almost perfectly matched at the blade. Their engagement was brief but fierce, and in a short time, Malgus analyzed that he was not going to walk away with a flawless victory. He instead decided to tactically take a hit to the face in order to open up the guard of the Jedi, and only then did he get a clear enough shot to run the Jedi through. Following the battle, Malgus decided to pay last respects to the Jedi that fought him that day, whom he considered to be a valiant warrior. Once the temple had been felled, Malgus ensured that it was not disturbed any further, so it would serve as the final resting place of Venzalo. Malgus was a greatly feared individual in the Sith Empire, so for him to become obsessed with the Jedi and lend him this much respect, there was a healthy fear amongst most Lords of the Sith for Venzalo. During the sacking, at least 3 or 4 Sith warriors had attempted to rush the Jedi, including the rival of Malgus, all in a bid for glory. Each one of them failed miserably. Only Malgus was able to take him down, and not without making a compromise. But Venzalo was not the only feared Jedi of this era. Number 4, Satele Shan. The soon-to-be Jedi Grandmaster, and perhaps the one with the largest reputation among the Order of the Sith. Satele was only a Jedi Knight for most of the 30 Years' War, but still managed to leave her stamp on history. She was trained by Jedi Battlemaster Cal Sandarric, and with him, were the first to interact with the returned Sith Empire and enter a duel when the Sith returned to Korriban in 3681 BBY. Satele was brilliant with a saberstaff, and proved to be a worthy challenger for the Sith on multiple occasions in the war. The Sith Lords feared her because she was responsible for wounding 2 prominent members of the Dark Council. The first was Darth Malgus, who she had it out for after he killed her master 16 years earlier. During the famous invasion of Alderaan, Satele arrived as reinforcements for Havoc's squadron against Malgus' full assault. Faster than anyone could react, Satele took out 7 Sith warriors, charging directly for Malgus. She then engaged a Prime Malgus 1v1, and although she lost the battle at the blade, she overcame him with the power of the Force. Her raw power born from her lineage connected to Revan enabled her to block a pure lightsaber blade with Terminus, and then she mustered a force wave that managed to completely overcome Malgus, a man who stood as head and shoulders above every Sith of this era. The sheer might of her blast smashed Malgus into the cliffside, bringing the entire thing down on top of him. Although the Dark Lord survived, his ribcage had collapsed around his lungs, leaving him dependent on a breathing mask for the rest of his life. Later, she would participate in the Battle of Ren Var, where the evil Sith scientist Darth Mechas had established her stronghold. Mechas was known as the lead designer for all of the Empire's superweapons, and Satele and Republic forces waged a bloody war on the snow-covered hills, until they eventually reached Mechas' fortress. While we don't see the duel actually happen, Mechas herself was forever changed. She was so critically wounded by Satele that she had to be cybernetically reconstructed. These are not normal Sith Lords. They're two of the most feared Sith in history, and Satele didn't beat them. She irreversibly crippled them, adding only to her mystique that she was an unwavering warrior of the light side and a true Jedi. However, Satele dismissed all feelings of vengeance and hatred for her enemies, even Malgus. After becoming Grandmaster, she refused to engage Malgus anymore because she believed that it would be too spiritually detrimental for her. And when he was brought up before her in chains, she spared his life, sentencing to a life in prison rather than executing him. There was nothing more frightening to a Sith than a Jedi who could not only destroy their strongest members, but do so while remaining completely uncorruptible. It flew straight in the face of all of their doctrine that stated that strength came only from evil. But beyond Satele, there was another who would prove that Jedi can be quite terrifying when they are taken to a more militaristic extreme. Number 3. General Hoth. There has never quite been a Jedi like Lord Hoth, one that has managed to resist turning to the dark side anyway. He was the epitome of what could happen if a Jedi were to totally dive into the art of war. Had the entire order shared his same drive and resolve, the Sith would have been finished 100 years before his birth. Originally his name was Roland, and he was born at some point during the Republic Dark Age of 1100 BBY on the planet known as Cal. He grew up in a time when the Sith were a prominent threat in the galaxy. They had caused so much destruction that the Republic had to retreat into the core, cutting off their communication with the Mid and the Outer Rim. Jedi Watchmen had decided to go out and establish strongholds on certain planets and systems to protect them, especially while the Republic could not. They became kings and feudal rulers of these systems, establishing dynasties and calling themselves Jedi Lords. The Jedi Lords were able to keep the Sith largely at bay from these more vulnerable sectors of space, but they couldn't commit to a full campaign against them. Roland refused to accept the way things were though, and followed in his family footsteps and eventually became a Jedi Knight. He vowed to end the Sith threat once and for all, and devoted himself purely to the art of combat. He journeyed to the planet of Hoth, where the Sith had established a powerful position that kept the entire Corellian trade spine under the threat of Sith pirates. Single-handedly, Roland battled all of the pirates and utterly destroyed the Sith, sending them fleeing from the system. Having liberated Hoth, the Republic moved in to ensure that the trade spine would be secure again. Following this, he received the title of Master, along with the nickname Lord Hoth. Roland would go by Lord Hoth until the day of his death. Along with this, he was also made a Jedi Battle Master at the Temple. His repeated victories earned him a valiant reputation among both Jedi and Sith alike. The rulers of the dark side knew his name well, and seethed with hatred at it. His skill in battle was simply too good, and they didn't seem to have the strength in numbers or command to take him down. Hoth's students highly respected him, and stories of his successes permeated through the Jedi Order. Though the Council tried to keep them quiet, they didn't much care for the war-oriented attitude of Hoth, and wanted to go in a different direction. The High Council had attempted to raise their own champion to fight against the Sith in the form of a Jedi by the name of Skir Khan, but the man fell to the dark side and rallied all the Sith Lords together to form what is known as the Brotherhood of Darkness, completing it in the year 1010 BBY. Seeing the Council's dramatic failure, Hoth rallied the support of his fellow Jedi Lords and formed what is known as the Army of Light. Left and right, he saw victory after victory. Khan was well aware of his reputation and despised the man, but could never fully gain an advantage over him, was driving the Brotherhood from the cloak of the Sith. One of Hoth's greatest victories was driving the Brotherhood from the cloak of the Sith, which was a powerful Sith defensive gathering in the Outer Rim. He chased them all over space, driving them from countless worlds, including their historical capital of Droman Kos. The Light and Darkness War ended with a bloody trench warfare campaign on the planet of Ruusan. This caused great damage to both sides of the conflict, and only concluded when Darth Bane manipulated Khan into using the Thought Bomb ritual. Following the 7th Battle of Ruusan, the Army of Light had technically won the war officially, but Hoth had to take 99 Jedi volunteers with him into the caves in order to stop the thought bomb ritual, and there he ultimately perished as well upon its detonation. Jedi history doesn't look too kindly upon the legacy of Lord Hoth, however, because of mainly the moral compromises he had to make during the war, not the least of which was the employment of child soldiers during the Ruusan campaign. But to the Sith, he represented a man of talent, of strength, and of sheer unyielding will. When the Sith closed their eyes in the new Sith Wars, the Jedi that haunted their dreams was Lord Hoth. Nothing they threw at him deterred him, and he became a hammer of the Jedi. Had Darth Bane not remade the Order into the Rule of Two, Lord Hoth may have been the man to wipe the Sith from the pages of history. He was one of the only Jedi that would get down into the blood and the mud to fight the Sith. Literally. At number 2, we have Yoda. This entry is a little more unique than the other Jedi members on our list. There's more nuance here, because the Sith didn't really fear Yoda for what he did to them specifically, but rather for what he represented. Yoda became Grandmaster at some point in his 90s, which was in the late 1800s BBY. This was still in the early generations of the Rule of Two lineage, so Yoda became the embodiment of the very thing that they were aiming to destroy. Each generation of Sith would rise and fall in the shadows, countless masters taking on apprentices only for the apprentice to become the master and start the cycle anew. They grew, they changed, and they morphed into something else entirely. But the one thing that remained constant throughout these centuries was Yoda. Yoda did not change as Grandmaster for the worse. He got older and more powerful. He sat in the ivory tower of the High Council chambers on Coruscant, symbolizing the apex of the Jedi's power. His age and wisdom granted him more knowledge in the Force than any Jedi alive, and as his strength grew, so did his presence in the Force itself. The Sith could feel him there. He was an ever-present beacon of light that every member of the Rule of Two would have felt from the time that they began their training to the time that they were overthrown by their apprentice. For the Sith, there had to have come a point when Yoda stopped being a person in their eyes and became a fact of life. A constant reminder of the reason that they were hiding in the shadows now. Of course, soon enough, Darth Sidious and Dooku began making their moves on the galaxy stage. Their pride and confidence was at an all-time high. They had managed to pull the veil of the dark side over the vision of the Jedi, keeping them blind to the machinations of the Sith. All was going according to plan, and Yoda now appeared to be just an arrogant, blind old man. That was until Geonosis. It was not in the plans for Dooku to fight Yoda. His appearance at the landing pad was a complete surprise to both of the Sith Lords, but Lord Tyrannus could not resist the opportunity to show his old master just how powerful he had become in the Force. And about that old master, he had believed that Yoda had been a doddering old fool, a relic of a bygone era. But what he felt that day on Geonosis was no less a power that rivaled Sidious. His wisdom in the Force had enabled him to repel every attack Dooku threw at him, and his skill in the lightsaber had not dulled at all in his older age. Dooku's fear of Yoda compounded a few years later on Vajun. He would compel Yoda to give in to the dark side, and the Grandmaster, just to prove a point, complied. What Dooku saw then was the stuff of nightmares, a Yoda gone rotten. He saw a shadow pass over the face of his former master. He sensed all 800 years of Yoda's wisdom in the Force turn towards the dark in a moment. The axis of power in the galaxy shifted. Dooku beheld an entity that would be the end of all life as he knew it. A force that dwarfed Sidious himself. And just as easily as Yoda slipped into the dark side, he slipped out, displaying a level of mastery and self-control foreign to Dooku. Darth Sidious would also gain a healthy fear of Yoda during their climactic duel. For decades, Sidious desired to test himself against the Grandmaster blade to blade. He had endured countless meetings where they sat in the same room, with Yoda totally oblivious to the fact that he was in the presence of a Dark Lord of the Sith. And now, finally, Sidious could unleash the full power of the dark side to show the arrogant old fool who was truly the Grandmaster. Only, that didn't go according to plan either. He got his first strike on Yoda with his Force Lightning, but then felt the full might of a Force push trained under 8 centuries. Sidious attempted to escape in the hallway, hoping to force Yoda into a confrontation where his style was at a disadvantage. But Yoda proved faster and cut him off. Sidious was now having to engage the Grandmaster in a duel, which he had believed that he would enjoy. But joy quickly gave way to frustration, then to rage, then to fear, unable to pin down the old green fool. Yoda's flips, his parries, they are all kinetically powered, keeping Sidious from being able to unleash the full fury of his Juyo form. And in both the original Revenge of the Sith script and novelizations, it is revealed that Yoda disarms Sidious of his lightsaber, thereby winning the duel. Sidious just barely managed to achieve victory in the overall battle through his use of the Force. But even then, he was not able to kill Yoda. The Jedi eluded him, and just like his predecessors, Sidious was forced to suffer many more years of feeling Yoda's ever-present signature, knowing that he was out there, a reminder that light existed and that the Sith had failed in stamping it out. His fears finally confirmed to him once Yoda's life winked out in the galaxy, because all that did was establish Sidious's newest threat. Number 1. Luke Skywalker. Darth Sidious became concerned about Luke since the moment he learned that the boy was the son of Anakin Skywalker. He informed Vader that the boy had the potential to destroy them both, and that at all costs, he must not become a Jedi. This is not something that he mentions idly. Not only could he see the future, but he had a private cult of seers that confirmed his visions with their own. He knew very well the threat posed by the Sith by Luke. The boy represented a future that was robbed from the Jedi, a new hope for their order. His destiny transcended things like traditional Jedi training. If he was not killed or corrupted, then he would surely become their doom. He had already proved himself by destroying the Death Star despite almost completely being untrained in the realm of the Force, doing so on instinct alone. Although Vader proposed the idea of twisting him to the dark side, Sidious did not intend on allowing Luke to live. He did everything he could to stop Luke in his tracks, and failed each time. In Legends, he grew desperate, sending his personal hand and faithful assassin Mara Jade to see to Luke's death. Even she failed her task, losing sight of him at Jabba's palace. Even when Palpatine had the boy right in front of him, Skywalker remained incorruptible, which ended up inspiring Vader to return to the light. This had been something Sidious never once saw coming. He believed that Vader was permanently drowned in the dark side. From the perspective of the rest of the galaxy, and any Sith sympathizers out there, Luke Skywalker walked into the second Death Star with the two most powerful men in the galaxy, and walked out as the only one alive, dragging the corpse of Lord Vader. His reputation became petrifying to anyone who wielded the dark side. He killed the Emperor not once, but twice when he returned during the Dark Empire crisis. This was a prime Sidious with all of the accumulated knowledge and power of the dark side. And Luke still triumphed in a duel. He took out each one of the prophets of the dark side, including one going by Lord Shadowspawn, their strongest member. One of his own students, Brachus, attempted to make a Dark Jedi Academy and to attack Luke's school, but Luke bested him in a duel while barely even trying, proving to him that his efforts were always fruitless. Countless more times, Dark Jedi and cultists alike rose up against Luke, and each time they were knocked down. When Lumaya was accused of killing Luke's wife, Skywalker tracked her down and butchered her with efficiency. The only Sith to even challenge him was Darth Caedus, and even Caedus recognized that Luke was holding back and was beyond him. While Luke's power was flexed in its true form against him, Caedus was pinned to a chair and unable to move. Caedus describes the feeling as being sat in a chair with a ship infinitely jumping into hyperspace, an impossible weight on his chest that could not be removed. Caedus realized that if Luke wanted to, he could simply squeeze and crush the Sith under his power alone. The lost tribe of the Sith attempted to ambush Luke once, but the Grandmaster took them all on by himself and nearly destroyed them as a one-man army. The power of Luke Skywalker and his skill were so insurmountable that when Darth Krayt created the One Sith, he had to have them outlive Luke before he could do anything. The Sith literally waited a century, ensuring that Luke would be long dead before they made their move on the galaxy. And even after this, they still revered the legend of Luke, making him the most terrifying Jedi to ever exist in the eyes of the Sith. And it's not close. So my friends, what do you think of our list? I personally like the idea of seeing a role reversal in the Jedi-Sith dynamic. Usually it's the villains that have an air of mystery and a terror surrounding them, but when we see the worst of evil cowering in fear from the best of the good, it gives the light side of the Force the respect that it deserves. I hope one day we see more projects where the Jedi are viewed as competent, intimidating opponents to the Sith, not just fools to be removed. But what are your thoughts? Are there any Jedi that you believe should have made the top 5 list? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see a follow-up of the Sith that the Jedi fear the most, let us know below. But as always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.